Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video we're going to add user accounts and set up a little bit of permissions for who can do what on our account, whether you're logged in or not logged in or modifying your own content. So let's get started now. Okay, so we have all of our stuff in here, but I mentioned before, I want to make sure that each of these is tied to a specific user, so you can't actually create a resolution without being a user, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the user accounts package. Now, the user accounts package is awesome with Meteor. So if we head to Sublime Text and let's just head to our packages, let's go ahead and add a couple of packages. One's going to be accounts UI, and another is going to be accounts password. Now, I'm using the accounts UI, which is actually going to be using some Blaze templates. Now, there is an account solution that works with Meteor 1.3, but it's a little bit more involved, and it does use straight React though. Now, the reason why it's more difficult is because that accounts package is actually built for 1.2, and if you use it with Meteor 1.2, it works like perfectly, but with 1.3 you have to do some additional work to get that going. So it's beyond the scope of the basic series. So that's why we're going to use accounts UI and accounts-password. Now, we're going to actually be able to use Blaze templates, these pre-created Meteor templates within our project, simply by just creating a component. This is pretty cool, so let's check this out. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a new component. So I'm just going to do that in the root of my client directory. We're going to say new file. New file is going to be named accounts UI.jsx. Now we're going to import React, comma, brackets, component from React, and we're going to import React DOM from, and then in a string, React -DOM, like that. And now we're going to create a new component. We can say export default class and have this be accounts UI extends and then component. Okay, now we just need our curly brackets. Cool. Okay, so this component is going to essentially just render, and what we're going to return is going to be return a single span with a ref of container. Okay, so this is going to be the container that will hold the Blaze template. Now, you might be wondering what Blaze is if you're new to Meteor. Blaze is Meteor's front-end framework that comes with Meteor. If you followed the intermediate Meteor or the Meteor for Everyone series before this, all the front-end code that we did with that was written in Blaze. And since this accounts UI package actually has so many great templates and features, we might as well just use it for this as well. So let's go ahead and now have a component did mount. So we can say component did mount, make sure there's no comma at the end there, and say this dot view is equal to blaze dot render, and then we can have template dot login buttons. Okay, now this is the Blaze template that already exists. Again, we can say comma here, and then before the closing parenthesis we can say comma React. Actually, I'm going to do this on a new line just so we can see this. React dom dot find dom node, and then pass in this refs container. Okay, now we finished that off with the parenthesis and the semicolon. So what we're doing here is we're setting the view equal to Blaze render. So we're going to be rendering this template button into what is this container. So that's with component did mount. So now what we want to have is component will unmount. So we can say component will unmount. Again, make sure there's no comma there if you have this auto completion on. And we can now say blaze.remove, and then this dot view, like this, okay? So check this out. When it's mounting, we're getting the Blaze template login buttons. We're rendering it to the DOM view, which is in refs container, which is this span. And then when it unmounts, we're removing it. So now we should be able to have access to these logins. So let's go ahead and head to our main layout. We can get there just by main layout. And we had resolutions in about. Let's go ahead and add our accounts UI. We need to close that tag, but if you remember, to use a component, we need to import it. So import accounts UI from, and since we're in layouts, we need to go back a folder, so we can say // then we can just give this accounts UI.jsx. Cool. So we're referencing back a folder, finding accounts UI.jsx, and now we have our accounts UI. So it's as simple as that. Let's actually check out our website now and make sure things are going well. You'll notice right off the bat, we are greeted with this sign in. Now keep in mind, I haven't done any styling to this, so you'll want to do some CSS work obviously on this. And if you wanted to use the unstyled one, you can do that all the same just by creating components for those. Perhaps you want a component that has the login buttons or the login window itself. Okay, let's go ahead and just click sign in. And now we have access to a full user login account. Now you'll notice, obviously I don't have an account because we haven't created anything. So let's click create an account, and here we are. Cool, so we now have a login. I'm logged in now, and we can verify this simply by, in our command line, we can say meteor.user ID as a function, and it's going to give you the current user's ID. Cool. Okay, so now let's say we want to have each of these resolutions here. We want these all to end up actually with this user ID. Whenever you create a new resolution, we want it to be attached to that particular user. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete a few of these because in a minute here, once we change our publish settings, we're going to lose access to all of these. So let's go ahead. I have 2 alive right now, 2 still in the database. You see that we accessed our current user login by having meteor.user ID. Let's go ahead and jump into our methods. So in our methods, and now let's create a new field in here, and we can say something like user and then colon, and then now you can simply just paste in meteor.user ID. Now check this out. Because we're logged in, it's going to have us this meteor.user ID. That's super good. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a new resolution here. We can just say do yoga, enter. Now let's check out the command control M resolutions, and you can see, let's find the do yoga, and now it is attached to a user. Perfect. So what we can do now is we want to limit somebody who's not logged in. So somebody who's not logged in should not be able to add a new resolution. We can do that within the method itself. And that's going to be really nice because obviously what you want is your methods to be nice and secure. You don't want somebody who isn't have an account be able to add stuff into your database. Okay, so let's go ahead and say if meteor.user ID. So what this is saying is if there is no user ID, then throw new meteor.error. So now it's going to throw an error, and we can just say not authorized. So this is just a simple if you're not logged in, meteor.user ID, then throw new meteor error. Okay, we can add a new one, so we can say do handstands. Okay, you can see it added fine. Let me just open up an incognito window here and enter this in here, because in an incognito window, you're not going to be logged in. I'm going to also open up my command line, and we can say, let's click out of here, let's add one. We can just say jump more. So as you can see, it has not been added, but we don't have anything going on in our console log. There's really no indication to the front end user, but as you can see, this series has not been added. Okay, so now that's just step one really. Let's head back to our normal window here. So let's get started working on this, making this just a little bit more secure. You'll remember that we said we only wanted to really see the resolutions that were created by the user that's logged in. For instance, we don't want any resolution that's not created by the current user to be visible. And right now, Finish React Native and Dance in My Office are not owned by me. So let's go ahead and change that. In our publish, we can, in publish.js, remember when we had all resolutions? Let's go ahead and just change, let's go ahead and copy this. Let's make a new one. And let's just have this be user, sorry, that should be user resolutions. And so this is just going to be the current user's resolutions. Now we can have brackets in here, and now we're going to be looking for a resolution where the user is equal to, and now we can access the current user within publications by this dot user ID. And you might be wondering why this dot user ID and not meteor.user ID with a function. Well, everywhere in Meteor except for publish functions, you're going to use meteor.user ID as a function. In this case, we're using this.user ID inside of a publish function to get the current user's ID. So as you can see here, resolutions.find where the current user is equal to this.user ID is going to give us the user resolutions. All right, so let's copy this and now paste this into our resolutions wrapper for the subscription. And if you remember, we subscribe to all resolutions, but now I want the subscription to be to user resolutions, which is only going to give us the current user resolutions. Okay, so you now can see when we tab back, we now have access to two resolutions, even though there were 4 in here. If we do Control M, you're going to see that we only have 2 in our Mongo. No user is going to have access from the server of any resolution that's not owned by them. Amazing. So that's really super good. This is a step in the right direction because now obviously we can't get at other people's content. Your things are now private to those logged in. If we were to log out, again, I'm going to just throw this open in an incognito window and you're going to be able to see these two, which is funny because these two were created with no user. Now that we're logged out, let's just delete these two. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to see them. And now that we can't add any, so either way we can't see anything here. Obviously you would want some sort of basic text to say, hey, log in or something. In another video, we're going to be having a little warning message pop up when you try to log in here, when you try to submit a resolution here. But as you can see, here we have access to these two. And in the other window, we have access to nothing. Cool. Okay, so let's secure this up just a hair more. You'll remember that we had access to, let's go to our methods here. We had access to delete and toggle a resolution. Obviously, we want the current user to only be able to update their own. If you also notice, we were passing this ID and status, and in this one, we're just passing an ID. Let's go ahead and update how we do that. We actually want more information in these methods. So to get started, let's head to our single resolution single, and where we pass this multiple properties, we pass this props.resolution.id and resolution.complete. Let's get rid of this complete, and let's get rid of all this up until where it says resolution. So now we're giving toggle resolution this entire object of resolution. Same with the delete. We're going to get rid of this ID. So now we're passing this entire object in here. What that means is that our methods, we now have access to, let's go ahead and change this to resolution, and let's go ahead, same thing right here. Now we actually have to address these as resolution dot, and then it's not going to be status because the property is complete. So resolution dot complete, and instead of ID, it's going to be resolution dot underscore ID. So we're no longer passing these arguments in here. We're actually using the object as a whole. And again, resolution ID, resolution dot underscore ID. So why do we just do this? Well, we did this to have access to the user. Let's go ahead and grab this if meteor user ID. Let's paste it above each of these here. Okay. And I'm going to use this to say if current meteor user ID is not equal to, it should be two equal signs, if the current meteor user ID is not equal to resolution dot user, then throw an error. Okay, I'm actually going to now copy this line right up here and paste it down here. So we're saying if the user ID, which is the ID, is not equal to resolution.user, then throw an error and do not allow you to remove or do not allow you to update. You'll be able to see we can remove do handstand still, and then we can add yoga, and we can add do yoga again. That's just perfectly fine. But for some reason, if somebody had access to these IDs or anything like that on the other end, they wouldn't be able to run these methods without getting an error, right? So this is just an added layer of security, basically making sure that the right person has access to the right things. Now this is really shaping up. You have to be a user to submit a resolution. You have to be the same user that created the resolution to do anything with it. And we only have access on the front end to the information that we're allowed. So in the next video, we're going to dive into some more JSX stuff. We're going to show you some conditional stuff and just really how to get around in JSX doing some things with classes and other things. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you want to help support these free tutorials, head to store.leveluptutorials.com and you can purchase this series right now and get access to the rest of the videos before they're released on YouTube, as well as bonus content, including code and extra videos that will not be made available on YouTube. You can also get access to these videos and content by subscribing and becoming a Level Up Pro. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video, hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.